everybody, Scott PK. Today I'm working on the rear panels. Let me show you what I got so far. Alright, so this is one of the panels. It's just 1/4 inch plywood. I've got the hole cut for my awning window. Turn this over. You'll see that it's just a couple of 3/4 inch pieces of plywood here that the wind fit right around the window. Right now they're just screwed in. I've got a few relief cuts for some bolts that are kind of in the way. I've got the holes cut for the screws that I'm using. I've actually had this panel test fit for a week or so. Got a little bit of Velcro I put on the back here just to kind of hold it there. Where I am next is I need to pull all these screws out. They were just panhead screws temporarily, and put some bugle head screws so they're flush. So we'll flush that up and then we'll cover it with fabric. I've got one panel that's done already. Well, mostly done. So that's the material I'm using. I've burnt in the holes there for the screws. I don't know if that's going to show up, probably not. But I just got a hot nail and poked it through there. This little piece of trim here, I'm going to have another piece of fabric that's going to go all the way around there and trim up around the window. So I've got to get that done before I can put the panel back in, but I'm mostly happy with how they're turning out. So I'm going to work on this one next. Sink those screws down there and then cover it with foam. I'm just putting a little bit of 1/8 inch foam on the outside of these panels first, just to make them a little bit softer, and then I'm covering them with the fabric, which is the Marathon tweed. This is the heather pattern. Let's see, this one I've also got a little bit of trimming. I just want to, as I was fitting it in there, I noticed it was a little tight in a couple spots. So we're just going to do some final trimming and we'll be done. Alright, so I've got my fabric attached to the one side. Actually, there's some foam and then some fabric. And now I'm going through just making my relief cuts. I do kind of just a simple relief cut. So this one should go over here, this should go there. That one goes all the way down. I'll deal with the center here in a few minutes. Alright, so got the two panels. These are the bed panels. The panels are right next to the bed. Got the upholster on. And then I'm going to go through and trim this inside section. I'm just going to fold the material over in half and glue it real tight, and then attach it right to here all the way around. Be sure to check out the ourkaravan website or YouTube channel also. That I'm pretty much doing what he did on his Sprinter van, so pretty much the same process more or less. I think he used pre-bought trim rings instead of the homemade ones that I had, but the way he trimmed the carpet here, I'm going to follow his procedure. Seems pretty good and nice and clean. There's screws that you have to hold these trim rings on, and I didn't want to have to cap all of those, so this hides all those. So the only screws, I still got like 8 screws per panel, or 8 bolts per panel holding the panel onto the wall, but at least I've got all the bolts holding the trim ring are all underneath the fabric, and hopefully this trim little process will work okay. We'll find out. Hopefully it'll fit. That's the thing about building these vans as an amateur. Everything you do is a potential failure because you're doing it for the first time, but that's how you get experience. We'll let you know how things turn out. Alright, let me show you a bit what's going on in the van here. So just added this new little rug here. Kind of gives it a nice finished look. Temporarily have a couple of chairs set up where the bench is that I'm going to build. I figured I kind of modified the little vent underneath there to make this work a little better, which works great. So go back here. So I did, tripping over things down here. So I did finish my two panels over here on the sides. Turned out pretty nice. I like them. I ended up using these little button deals. This piece of metal right here, which moves a little bit this way, but it doesn't move up or down, and by the time I tie it all together, it should be a little better. This one's a little bit more attached because I've got this control board right here, but it still moves a little bit. That's all right though. Put a little bit of foam underneath the Marathon heather tweed fabric, so it's nice and soft. I did a nice little bit of trim work around the windows themselves, so I'm happy with how it turned out. And I don't have the panel here, which will be the backsplash of the kitchen. I don't have that one done, nor do I have the one on the other side quite figured out yet. You know, that's where my control panel is. I did find a piece of foam that fits in here that I'm going to upholster in that same fabric and be able to push it in there to kind of trim that out. Another thing I've changed recently is that I've moved my I had just like a working bench there that didn't work very well at all, and but there was these vents down underneath there for the auxiliary rear heater that this van has. And I pulled out the plastic around it and detached the vents, and so now I can actually get a chair in there and just have tiny little vents attached to it. So that actually works great. I wish I would have figured this out earlier. If I had, then I would start working on the kitchen now instead of working on the bench, which is my next project. But since I have the materials and all the parts, I'm going to stick with my plan, and next I'm going to build a bench here, even though I've got these two very comfortable little chairs. Next, like I say, I'm going to build out this bench, and I've just been doing measurements and just wrapping up a few little things here and there that I want to do before I get into that project. But that's next and coming soon. So thanks for watching. Bug on there.